I wanted to introduce our next speaker to you, Dr. Sean Hubbard. He's our very own BayCare neurohospitalist. Sean is a really great guy. He plays bass guitar and he likes bossa nova, right? I don't play bass guitar, but I envy people who play a musical instrument because I can't. I could barely get through the recorder in third grade. I want to welcome him up here now to talk to you a little bit about a program of his, TLC, as well as talking about communication and patient engagement.
Thank you, fabulous. Well, that bass guitar part kind of fudged it a little bit. I'm putting it out there. I figure one day I'll learn. I'm adding to that list speaking Portuguese. Yeah. All around the country, there are patients sitting in hospital beds and they're asking a big question. This big question: do these people even care? And they're talking about us. They're asking, do these people even care? But we don't hear the question when they ask it because they're not asking it with their mouth. We hear the questions that we are trained to answer, those technical questions. And so we don't answer this question many of the times. And so people are going home too often with unanswered questions. The most fundamental: do these people care? And when we are walking around with this question, we're not getting the benefit of the information that's being provided. We're not getting the benefit of the medications that are being provided and offered. We're not really enjoying the experience of healthcare. That leads to the outcomes that many times we are getting. I suggest to you that there are two types of questions that we must learn to answer. Those that are technical, the ones that we are trained to answer, and those that we are not trained to answer also. The silent one: do these people care? Patients want healthcare workers that they feel care enough to talk to them about their choices. That sounds like a simple statement. The care part must come first, or else they're not going to hear anything else we're saying. You've heard the saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you absolutely. We could say that in a lot of different ways. I would say to you that we are called to empathize and empower. Imagine you're driving along, you get lost, and you want to get from A to B, and you look for people on the road. You look for people that look like they give a damn and who know better. Who know where to go. They have technical information, and they also look like they care. Imagine you roll down your window to ask for directions, and before you can tell them exactly where you want to go, they start giving information. Where in the world would that happen? Have you ever done that? Done it. And so I needed to learn. I needed to understand, and that's what started this conversation for me about 20 years ago. So I've been practicing medicine for 25 years, and this is my first time in an institution where I've gotten an opportunity to talk to people on my team about this very important topic. I'm so thrilled. And so I'd just like to take a moment and thank Dr. 𝐾𝐨 for setting it up. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Dr. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞, his wife, and their family for supporting this event. It's really fabulous. It's a conversation we probably should be having more often, I would suggest. I think that we're in a very special time and a very special place also here at BayCare. Like Dr. 𝐼𝐸, I was practicing in the Northeast, and I heard him say that it's a little cutthroat up there. He said it nicely. I probably haven't said that out loud, but it is. It is. So we're in a wonderful place. People come here to have a great time to our area, and in our area, BayCare is a very special place. I would suggest that we have an amazing opportunity to be the best in the country. And I'm not just speaking in platitudes, I really mean that. I'd like to take a moment also to recognize Paula Dupree and her team, Jennifer Anderson. I've seen people that are on the backside of this who won't be standing up here to make all of this happen. So thank you, and thank you for your attention for being here. As I mentioned, I've been practicing medicine for about 25 years, but I've been in the patient experience space for about 5 years. This is me in the top corner, my first patient experience symposium, and this was in Boston. As it turns out, most of the times, the organizations that initiate conversations like this are not in healthcare. It's really remarkable. It's a little embarrassing, actually. And my wife took this picture here. She went with, we went together to Boston. She's a physician also. She's also a BayCare Medical Group, but she didn't necessarily want to be in the picture. So now you can see I'm very excited here. I wasn't with BayCare at the time, and I was so excited. I came back the next year and presented the patient experience workbook and did a little roundtable on some of the topics we're talking about here. And then a year later, last year, I presented this information when doctors learn to answer the big question. Do you guys really care? And then this was just a couple of months ago. Who we have here are the Chief Experience Officer over at Mayo Clinic. We have the editor of the Patient Experience Journal, and there's a lady, Lynn Charbonneau. She's the Patient Experience Director over at Tampa General. People are talking about this. But what we were talking about there is that physicians are not usually a part of the conversation. When we go to these meetings, like my wife, she says, I don't see many doctors here, actually. And so many times, instead of attending the meeting, she goes shopping, and she lets me do my thing. And so this is the conversation we were having. Since we've been meeting, now we were hanging out before the meeting, actually, that group, because we've gotten to know each other over the past handful of years. We were talking about how the field has changed. The patient experience field has changed. What it is we are talking about, the focus that we are presenting. What we realized is that we've been practicing something that is, let's say, a little off center in a way. So I was a chemistry major, but I'm not a chemist. I'm a doctor, right? We have a lot of biology majors, but they're not practicing biology necessarily at work, really. We are in the people business. I was listening to a talk, it was actually an interview, and Howard Schultz, the CEO, previous CEO of Starbucks, the interviewer said, "Howard, tell me, how in the world are you able to get people to pay 2-3 times more for a cup of coffee than these people around the corner?" And Howard says, "I keep telling you, we are not in the coffee business. Coffee is a product we sell. We're in the people business." And that was an identity development, you might say, that changed their company early on. They were not breaking even until they realized that we are in the people business. And sometimes we have told ourselves that I'm not in social work, As providers, sometimes we might make a comment like this. What are we saying? I'm not in social work. There's a part of us that's saying, we don't understand this, and we're not here for that. But we are. This is what we're doing. This is the business we are in. We're in the people business. Now, it might sound like an obvious statement. Some of like what Dr. Arif was saying. We are in a moment where we can really make a difference and where we probably have an identity adjustment that we can make when we understand what business we are in. And so it's the reason why people are asking this question. Do healthcare workers really care? So once and for all, let's settle this. Do healthcare workers really care? Yes or no? Yep. Yes, of course. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have to do a more effective job of communicating it. And so that's why we're having this particular discussion today. Yes, we do care. Each of you probably got those buttons there. I believe that's the answer, that we have to become more effective at letting people know that, yes, indeed, we do care. But this is a crucial moment, I suggest to you, that we learn how to do that. It takes skill, and this started for me about 20 years ago when I first realized that I don't really have communication skills to do a lot of what I really wanted to do in life. But help people, just be helpful. Now, I could examine some chemistry. I was involved in developing a medicine for dementia, but talking to people wasn't something that I studied. But why is this the moment? I'm suggesting that this is a crucial moment for us. Why now? Why does it matter now? Well, a lot of things have changed. It's changed for all of us. Practicing medicine, being a nurse, being a patient, being an administrator, it's not the same as it was 20 years ago. Things have changed. And so it's a great time to have a conversation and reevaluate. What has changed? Our perspectives have been changed by a lot of our experiences. You go to Chick-fil-A and you order yourself a milkshake and you get whipped cream on it and cherry on top. They give it to you and you say thank you. And what do they say? It's my pleasure. Absolutely. So Chick-fil-A helped us to change our perception of what good service sounds like and feels like. Chick-fil-A. Imagine they realized they're in the people business, right? There was a time when people would come to me for a lot of health-related information. But now, before they meet me, they've gone to Google. So our perceptions of data access has changed. We thought we were doing medical records for ourselves. Now, sometimes I show up to see a patient. They already have their results. Of a test that I ordered. Copays have gone up. Deductibles have gone up. When people start paying more money, they want to know, what are we getting? So perceptions of value have also changed. COVID happened. Remember that? It's painful. we started telling people, you stay home. Okay, you can go to work. You can travel. That's the wrong mask, right? So perceptions of control, personal control, changed us. And then we had people I have a physician, a fraternity brother, who is not with us today because he didn't believe in the vaccine. But we've lost people. Our sense of urgency, our sense of control, all changed. A lot of people moved. People started traveling, going out of the country after COVID ended, because who knows what's going to happen next year, tomorrow, right? So our perceptions have changed. A lot of things have changed. We have HMOs. Our perceptions of relationships have changed. There was a time when people would come to me and say, well, doctor, can you do blah, blah, blah? You know, I'd take a listen to them, see what they wanted, and I'd think through it, talk to them, order an approach, and it would happen. I wouldn't have to think about anything. Now, sometimes it bounces back because an insurance company says, yeah, we're not doing that. You see, so perceptions of relationships have changed. And it's brought us to this moment where people, we don't want to just be satisfied. We want an experience from which we can transform, from which we can grow. We don't just want your sympathy. Don't come and just pat me on the back, you know. But we want your empathy. We want to feel understood. And also, I might introduce myself to you as a diabetic, but don't treat me like a diabetic. That's tricky, right? Treat me, look at me, deal with me as the whole person who I am. Really tricky. I suggest that a big part of this is really understanding that people want to feel the care that we have. They want to feel that, yes, we do, spirit. And a lot's at stake. What's at stake? I'm so glad Dr. 𝐟𝐨 had the slide up that shows the benefits, all of those benefits of creating this environment and creating this space in between providers and patients. The quality of care goes up because when people feel that spirit, they adhere to their prescriptions more. They take their medications more. They follow up more effectively. They're more engaged because we've engaged them. The safety of care goes up. If you and I are working together and you feel that I care and I have your back and we create that with each other, we have a safer environment. We can attract more talent. We can retain more talent. And as Starbucks has shown, it's better for the bottom line. So a lot's at stake. So let's do this. Here at BayCare, we have our vision of becoming the best place to work, receive, and provide care. I see our leaders exemplifying that on a regular basis. I follow on social media and I see the spirit. I love that. And so that is this presentation is aligned with these ideas. I'd like to share with you some more ideas. Also, I consider them fundamentals. Fundamentals like we are in the people business, right? Sometimes we're telling ourselves something differently. Share with you some more ideas. Then we'll talk about some communication tools, some communication techniques that are designed to be empowering. And then I'd like to share with you some tactics that if this is a successful exchange we're having, then I'll convince you that BayCare can be and will be the best in the country. Better than the Cleveland Clinic. They think that they're number one. Better than the Mayo Clinic. They're usually number one or number two. And somehow Johns Hopkins ends up in there. But we can, I promise you, we can be number one. Or else I wouldn't want to have this conversation. I think it matters if we want to be number one. Many times we set goals and they're to be better. But, you know, it's vague goals, right? I figure we should be the best. I hope I can convince you of that. And so we'll talk about engaging, but mostly empathizing and empowering. Understanding where people want to go and then helping them to get there. I believe that is what we are called to do. Do healthcare workers really care? Yes, indeed, we do care. However, we have to become more effective at delivering that message. Communication is the main scalpel we use. Now, imagine we have a unit, critical care unit, and there's a nurse there, there's a doctor there. They decide they're going to be serious about these fundamentals, a couple of them. And they decide they're going to take on a few of these communication tools and communication techniques that are empowering, and they start practicing them as patients start to be presented to them. They start practicing one by one, and after a month, after 30 days, they will start to become second nature to them. They'll make new habits of communication. And then pretty soon, it'll become a part of their character. It'll become a part of who they are. And furthermore, they will work more effectively together. Now imagine if it's that entire unit Do you think their HCAP scores are going to be affected by this? No doubt, right? If an entire unit practices communication tools that are empowering, and first empathizing, right? Empathizing and empowering, and some of these ideas, that in time, a culture will be created. And it's a culture that will be very hard to imitate. You can't imitate whether somebody cares or not. Okay, so now I'd like to talk to you about a few more of these ideas. We alluded to this notion that experience matters, but let's talk about how it differentiates from satisfaction. There was a time when people were coming to me to fill out patient and physician satisfaction scores, but then it changed at some point, and I wonder what changed. It just changed all the wording, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's some new ideas happening here. And so I wanted to just talk about this. Now, who are my coffee drinkers here? Who has to have a coffee in the morning? Yeah? Okay, let's choose somebody. You go and order a coffee. Hi, I'd like to order a medium coffee. What are some things that have to be there about that coffee? Without thinking too much, you need your coffee to be, hot, and what else? Yeah? Okay, people expect some basic expectations. Hot, right? Who likes drinking lukewarm coffee? Not me, right? And how about somebody else? Hot? How about coffee that's been sitting fresh? Fresh, hot cup of coffee. Basic expectations. If somebody gives you lukewarm coffee that's been sitting around, it's unacceptable. I can't drink that. Why would you even give me that? It's like you're disrespecting me. And you took my money, you know? This was that guy on that photo. He had some expectations that weren't met. Basic expectations. When people come to our care, what they're looking for is safety, cleanliness, and basic respect. You give them that, they're satisfied. Now, imagine you go get your coffee, and this has happened to me on a regular basis. I sort of study this kind of thing. I mean, it's fun, or else I wouldn't be up here talking to you about it, right? So I go to Starbucks, and I shouldn't even tell you the name. I go there and order, and I'll take a medium coffee. Okay, sir, your name for the order? My name is Sean. Oh, is it Sean S.E. or Sean S.H.? It's S.E. And then she writes it on my cup, S-E-A-N. And then I look around. They've chosen the nice color paint. I see a couple of people here having a business meeting. There's a laptop, a couple of ladies here discussing something. And there's a teenager over here waiting to be picked up. And just like that, I have a medium latte for Sean. The guy says it just like my mom, right? When somebody says your name correctly, how does it make you feel? Valued? Respected? They took the time to get your name correct? Experience refers to a deeper emotional level. You can transform when your experience has been what you need. I'm not suggesting that satisfaction is more important or experience is more important. We need them both. It's not enough to just get the basics now. We won't be able to keep the lights on. We won't take care of anybody, really, on a regular basis. And so we have to meet all the basic needs, I suggest, and the deeper emotional needs if we want to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. That's the difference between experience and satisfaction. Experience gets us to a place we want to, and that is a lot of times what we are paying for. How about sympathy and empathy? We're talking a lot about empathy today. We don't need somebody to come and just pat us on the back. Yeah, I had a plant like that. It died also. You know, doesn't really, somebody standing far away and telling us that they understand how we feel because their plant died too, see? In order to really empathize with somebody, it's helpful if we go and meet them where they are to really understand what is their perspective. And then and only then can we really understand and be able to help them. If they don't feel that they're understood, they can't, their heart is closed, their ears are closed. They can't hear what you're talking about because they don't think that you understand their problem. This is one of those very silent things. Is that 5 minutes? Okay. One of these very silent things that's happening. We have to meet people where they are. Communicate our empathy. I want to share with you when I really started to, and I've been caring about this topic for quite a while, learning how to communicate our empathy. I did a lot of research and a lot of studying on empathy. I wanted to understand it and get it down because what happened was I was doing it, but not understanding what I was doing. And so people were asking me, how are you getting the outcomes that you're getting? I didn't know. So I wanted to understand it so we could have this conversation. And I found this list, and I was studying it and reading through it and meditating on it and praying on it. And then my wife walks in, and she said, I think we should go to Nashville because it's like the end of the summer. And then I didn't know whether to ask her, well, what does the end of the summer have to do with going to Nashville? Or, and instead what came out was, you know what, I'm trying to understand, empathy, these parts here. I keep memorizing it, and then, I come back to it. I really want to understand. It's not really a good time to go to Nashville because the basic symposium is coming up, and I really want to get this down. She says, you're going to be doing this anyway. You're always studying this. You're not going to stop studying it. You can go to Nashville and study it. So off to Nashville we went. We're checking into our hotel. Now, some of my friends know my wife here, so they're not going to be too surprised by this. You can hear her saying this. Anyway, so we get to Nashville, and we're checking into the Wyndham, and they say, you can go to the Grand Ole Opry if you want to, but you have to listen to this talk for an hour or so tomorrow morning. And so we agreed. We've been to those before. They're annoying. I don't usually like to spend my vacations like that. But, we had a little pact that we're not going to buy anything. We're just going to go drink some coffee and listen and get out of there, And so we had this agreement. We walked in, and we're making some coffee, just as planned. And a woman comes up to my wife, and she says, oh, wow, it's a nice dress. This is a lovely dress. This thing, I just wore it because it's comfortable. And the lady says, I love comfortable clothes, too. That's why I'm wearing this pajama pants. And we looked at her pants, and they looked comfortable. And so we made our coffee. We went and sat down. And then the guy who comes up to give the presentation, he says, oh, those were nice shorts to me. And I looked at the shorts, and they were nice. So, I accepted his compliment. Thank you, and all that. And then they asked, well, what brings you to Nashville? Where's your next trip? And my wife says, Portugal. And these, oh, wow, everybody wants to go to Portugal. Wow, what is this? And then he pulled up his computer, and he started showing us some things to do in Portugal. And then he started showing us places we could stay, Wyndhams they have there, and all the good things about Portugal. Now we're leaning in, right? But you know what was happening to me? I was looking at the professionals at work and learning. Oh, my God. This is what I wanted to learn, And my wife looks at me smiling. She, oh, we're not going. We're not going to buy anything, What are you smiling for? We agree we're not going to buy anything. But I said, look at that. Nice pants, nice dress, personal interest. I like comfortable clothes, too. Shared interest, right? Where do you want to go next? Understanding people's pleasure, their pain, their desires. Where do you want to go next? Everybody wants to go to Portugal. I thought, wow, this is happening. These people know what they're doing, And now I got it down pat because it's happening all over, right? It's something to learn from. So people want to feel understood, and our job, I suggest, is to sometimes take a step back and say, if you were not here, what would you be doing? If you were not here right now wearing these hospital pants and gown, what would you be doing at 10 o'clock in the morning? Understand who they are. When we understand who they are, we understand what choices they are making and what they're also giving up when they are sick. We understand their suffering. And when we understand their suffering, and I would suggest that until we understand their suffering, it's really hard to help them. When we're suffering, that is when we are asking this question. Do these people even care? It's really when we want to know that we're talking to people that care about us. And so approach matters, right? When I first started practicing, I didn't understand approaches. And so I tried to help people based on how I had gotten to where I got. I had gotten a chemistry degree, residency, basically a lot of education. So I tried to help patients by educating them. Didn't work. And so I learned that I needed to do something different. And then I saw some people use a direct approach and say, here's what you need to do. Wham! I heard about somebody who took a patient's cigarettes, threw them on the ground, and then stomped on them like that because they wanted a dramatic effect to get them to stop smoking. And so as patients and consumers and as we have become more empowered, now people are saying, hey, I need some Z-Pack. I'm feeling a little sniffly. Sometimes there's an impulse to just throw it. Okay, this is going to be easier. You need a Z-Pack. It's not going to hurt you. It won't hurt me to write it. So the following approach, but nobody really loves that when it comes right down to it. Doesn't feel good as a provider, and also a receiver doesn't help a lot. So the guiding approach is what is really helpful. When we recognize that when we are guiding, what we are acknowledging is that people have choices. We also have choices. We can offer suggestions. We can offer recommendations from our personal experience working with a whole lot of people, but they have to be accepted also. obviously not going to go through all of these empowering tools and empowering techniques. They are, let's say, we're asking open-ended questions all day long when we first meet somebody. What brought you in today? But if I want to empathize with you, well, then I'll ask it in a certain manner. Same words. I'm not going to yell them. I don't need to say it over and over and over. But my brow, my face, if I want to say, yes, indeed, we do care, my face looks different. Clarifying questions, double vision, chest pain, headache. If I'm saying it in a way that expresses my intention to say, yes, indeed, we do care. Same words. A lot of our colleagues think that we have to spend more time in order to get the outcomes we want, in order to help patients to feel it, but it's more skill. We don't have to say it louder. We don't have to say it more times. We're talking about communication skills. So all of these are communication skills that I've written a book on these, and I focus them and practice them every day. Now, I'm just going to skip to tactics because we are running out of time. Now, I hope that I've convinced you so far that some of what we are talking about, it's basic and fundamental. It's not happening in most of the places that are delivering care today. And so when we take on these fundamentals and we practice them toward the goal of saying, hey, yes, indeed, we do care. If we have that as an angle, as an intention, and that's what people will feel, our intention, well, then we will go straight to the top. And in my opinion, BayCare becomes a destination for where people want to go and learn that, because we do such a phenomenal job at delivering it and a phenomenal job at teaching it also. So now, have you been to or heard of a healthcare system that certifies people in patient experience? I've never heard of it. Why not? It's what we do. Patient experience, we could do that. And we would objectively be the first. And if we're doing it on a regular basis, we would objectively become the best at it. It's not happening anywhere else. I've been in the space for a handful of years watching what people are doing. It's not happening. And imagine this. We have a certifying program, and we certify, because we decide how people get certified, our nurses and our professional staff. Has any healthcare system done that? Why not? It's the business we're in. We're in the people business. Why are we going to people outside of healthcare to find out how to perform in healthcare? We'll go on to the next ones. Have you seen a healthcare system that has, let's say, a unified experience statement? You go to Chick-fil-A, order milkshake, I get Oreo. I almost wish my kids hadn't introduced me to Chick-fil-A, the milkshakes. You know, it's like I drive by and I'm like that. You go there, you order a milkshake, I get Oreo, whipped cream, cherry on top, and they give it to me. I say thank you, and they say, it's our pleasure. It's a unified experience statement that says what their role is in taking care of you, right? Have you seen a healthcare system that has a unified experience statement? I haven't. And I look for and love vision, mission, values, strategy. I just love all this stuff. And so I'm like waiting to see it, because I'll be like, yay. But guess what? We're in it. We're a part of it. We can do it, and we can be the best. I don't even think it'll be that difficult. A unified experience statement. How about, have you seen or been a part of a system that recognizes all of the amazing work that we do on a very regular basis? People get admitted to the hospital for TIAs often, and we do a wonderful job. And other health systems also do a wonderful job. We move on. Yeah, I think we recognize each other for that. Go on the social media offensive. Our leaders actually do this, and I love it. We have to commit to engage our colleagues. There's no way around it, really, if we're going to become the best. It's what everybody else is struggling on. And we're on seconds now. Our goal is to become the best place to work, receive, and provide care. It's in our vision statement. I'm sorry. Let's do it. I'll end with this. So this is me a couple of weeks ago. My wife she introduced me to Bollywood films, and I saw a girl holding a goat. It wasn't a significant part of the movie at all. There was a little girl holding a goat and walking by, and I said, is she holding a goat? And my wife, yeah. You know, she just thought it was silly, yeah. But I'm like, I want to hold the baby goat. Who doesn't want to hold the baby goat, you know? And so, you know, I just got sort of captured by this. And I've been sort of waiting for my turn to hold the baby goat. And then we moved here to Florida, and my wife made friends quickly, and some ladies introduced her to goat therapy, goat massage or something like that. And so she went and, goats were jumping all over her and all that. And so I'm still waiting for my goat experience, And so just a few weeks ago, we went to the Florida State Fair. Have you been? Anybody? It's amazing, right? And so, look, I got a chance to hang out with a baby goat. And I was like, can I pick him up? And they're like, no. So we're still waiting for that. But I love that. I was like, take my picture, for this moment here. I looked into the Florida State Fair. And I'm out there at the fairgrounds. And I'm wondering, where else can I go and follow this event? It's not happening anywhere else. It only happens in our area. Back then, I'm not going to go through the history, but somebody said, we need to do this. We need to get that Florida State Fair here, or else somebody else is going to have it over there. It's not in Jacksonville. It's not in Miami. Not in Orlando, right? Not in Tallahassee. It's in our backyard, our front yard. Somebody decided we need to do this now. That's the moment I believe we are in right now. The only question is, do we have the will to take the lead? What's my answer? Yes, we do. Thank you so much.